Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of the Halftime Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Reese Kinder, and obviously, the past few weeks we've had some special guests on here. We had Mike G from the Auburn War Report on episode 9 and episode 10 last week. Actually broke a few records we had. We had Zach Blackerby on the podcast last week. Got 174 views. I know that doesn't seem like much to some people, but to me, definitely a lot of views that we had last week, and very appreciative of Zach for taking his time out of his day to come on the episode and share his knowledge with some Auburn sports and stuff like that. But obviously, we're getting closer to March, and we could start to hear that music a little bit, the March Madness music. We are so close to March, and I'm excited. And honestly, we're gonna jump right in to March. Talking about March Madness, obviously. And first, I kind of want to talk about the National Player of the Year. National Player of the Year, obviously between two players currently, Cooper Flagg and Johni Broome. Cooper Flagg from the Duke Blue Devils and Johni Broome from the Auburn Tigers. And obviously, this debate been talked about for a few weeks now. Obviously Auburn fans will say Johni Broome deserves it. Duke fans say Cooper Flagg deserves it. And we're going to kind of go down the line here at stats and stuff. We're going to look at Johni Broome's stats, and we're also going to look at Cooper Flagg's stats as well. So we're going to kind of just take a brief little look at the National Player of the Year. Who could possibly get this? Because obviously, it's been a huge debate all season between these two. Let me just pull it up here really quick. Cooper Flagg. Okay, there we go. But yeah, obviously going to start with Johni Broome, Auburn forward. He is 6'10". He's basically 6'11". I've seen him before. He's 6'11" for sure. Averages 18 points per game, averages 11 rebounds, 3 assists, shoots about 50%. Not bad at all. And let's just kind of look at, obviously the argument is, for National Player of the Year, Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one pick. There's no doubt about it. He's NBA ready for sure, and he's only 18 years. Well, he's going to be 18 years old soon, and he reclassified obviously for a good reason. And that this could be the national championship, honestly, between Auburn and Duke. If both those teams make it very far in March Madness, this could be the national championship between those two, which would be must see TV, honestly, with Auburn and Duke, because you got a great player in Johni Broome and a great player in Cooper Flagg as well. But kind of going down the stat line here too. Just looking at Johni Broome, right now, obviously, they're playing Ole Miss. If you guys are watching, they're playing Ole Miss. He has 8 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist currently. But his stats the past few weeks, last week, he had 31 points, 14 rebounds. The week before, 16 points, 13 rebounds. The Alabama game, 19 points, 14 rebounds. Vandy, he had 17 points. And he also had 7 rebounds. Florida, he had 18 points, 11 rebounds. So Johni's played some of the best teams in the country and just been able to get the job done, score lots and lots of points against some of those top tier teams in the SEC, and even out of conference play as well. Johni's just had a stellar season. And then if you go over and look at Cooper Flagg here, Cooper Flagg, he averages 19 points per game, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and has a 49% field goal percentage. But if you look at the teams he's played, he hasn't played near the competition that Johni Broome's played. He's played teams like, here's the last 5 games he's played. Miami, they're not very good. Illinois, they're sort of good. They'll make the tournament. Virginia, they're not very good. Stanford's not very good. Well, actually, Stanford's decent. Cal's not very good. So if you look at the difference between Broome and Flagg right now, I would say Broome has the edge on opponents, like on who he's played. But if I would say who you're going to give it to, it's going to be Flagg, because of the way he's played. He's had some incredible games, but definitely a huge debate between those two. And it will be interesting later down the road. And obviously, we're getting close to conference play and we're getting close to March Madness. So I think that's one thing the voters will look at, is how they do in those tournaments. But I can't wait to see what the future holds for both of these players. Because Johni, obviously, the start of the season, Johni was not projected to get drafted. Now he's projected to get drafted. So I'm kind of interested to see how the NBA draft unfolds with those teams. But, didn't want to spend a lot of time on National Player of the Year because I feel like it's really it's a big topic, but it's like also at the same time this debate could be either it could be one-sided or it could just be, mutual with people just kind of agreeing with Broom or people going with Flag. I don't know. It just depends. So, but I think, in my opinion, if I were to say who I think wins it, it's Flag. Who deserves it more is Broom because Broom's had a stellar season. But Flag will probably end up winning it. But yeah, going away from National Player of the Year, we are going to get started for real in this episode. I know you guys haven't heard of bracketology in a while. We've been doing some Auburn reporters in the past few weeks, so haven't had time to look at the bracketology at all. But we are going to get back into bracketology now, and we're going to start with Joe Lenari's bracketology that he did release this week. Actually, yesterday he released it at 9 a.m. And your top overall seed is obviously the Auburn Tigers. Your first team out is North Carolina, and your last team in is Wake Forest. So, kind of right there, one thing that stands out to me is why is North Carolina still in the tournament? I mean, North Carolina, they have had a terrible season. I mean, you got to admit, if you've watched North Carolina this whole season, they've had a terrible season. And I mean, it just shows that when you have a good name like North Carolina, they stay in the tournament conversation. But I don't think the Tar Heels will make the tournament. I mean, they still got a few games left. They have Duke the last game of the season. I don't know who they're playing this week or next week, but they do have Duke the last game of the season. And if they lose maybe one or two more games, their season's over. And if they lose in the ACC tournament as well, their season's over. So I say North Carolina's first team out is quite. It's a little bit of a stretch there to put the Tar Heels at the first team out. I would say if you're going to put any team at the first team out, it's probably going to be Indiana, who is behind them actually. But I would say Indiana deserves it more. Indiana got a big win against Purdue this following Sunday. And then they've gotten a few decent wins. They have some bad losses, but those decent wins can help boost their tournament chances, which I think Indiana could sneak in, depending on how they do in the Big Ten Conference championship. And also depending how they do the rest of the season, which just we'll see. I mean, I believe they have a pretty easy schedule to end the season, so they just need to win those games they have left, and should be good for Indiana if they end up winning out. But and then if we look at the last four byes, you got a West Virginia team that's beaten some great teams, but they've kind of been on a down spell lately. And then you got Texas, who just joined the SEC this year. Texas has had a decent season. I mean, 17-11. Them and Georgia are tied. And actually, Georgia is not even in the last four byes, which kind of concerns me a little bit. They beat Florida last night, actually. But this did come out before they beat Florida. But I think now the new bracketology that comes out tomorrow, Georgia should be last four byes, maybe last four in, because Georgia's not a bad team, and I can't wait to see what they do in the tournament if they make it. Their last three games are against I believe it's Texas, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. And Texas is away, South Carolina's away, and Vanderbilt is at home. So if Georgia wants to make the NCAA tournament this year, to end their drought, they need to beat at least one of those teams, at least one of the good teams. I think they could beat South Carolina. South Carolina's not very good. So, yeah, the Bulldogs just need to take care of business those last three games. And I could see them in the last four bye spot. I like Georgia in the NCAA tournament. I mean, it's not. I've kind of hoped they've made it for the last few years, but it's just not worked their way. But I think this year things might go their way, and they could possibly get a shot in March and possibly make a name for themselves if they go on a little run. But yeah, I would say if you're going to replace anybody, you need to put Georgia in the last four byes and maybe take Texas and put them in maybe last four in or first four out, something like that. But then you got San Diego State behind Texas. San Diego State, we heard that name early in the year with San Diego State, and they were very highly talked about in the first part of the year, but now they've kind of went on a down spell, lost some games, but San Diego State's kept their ground. They've held their own in the Mountain West, and they're staying in that fight for a spot in the tournament. And I think if all they got to do is maybe win out, and then you could possibly see them make the tournament, or even win win a conference tournament game or two and cement their or put their bid in the tournament. Sorry, I'm like slipping up right now. Um, And then obviously behind San Diego State, you got Ohio State. Ohio State, very good team. Actually watched them play in person against Auburn. Auburn did blow them out, but Ohio State got a pretty solid team. I mean, also watched them on TV as well, and they've got a pretty solid team there, in Columbus. And I mean, this Ohio State team could do something in the tournament. They'll probably end up being, if they make the tournament, they'll be about a 12 playing game, maybe an 11 playing game. It just depends. But yeah, I like the Buckeyes here at the last four bye spots. Those last four bye spots are not bad. I would like to see a little bit of a change with the new one that comes out this week, or I don't know when they come out. I think it's every Tuesday and Friday, if I'm correct. So whenever the new one comes out, I would like to see a change, with putting Georgia in the last four byes, or maybe last four in. But speaking of last four in, looking at the last four in, Nebraska leads that. And then you got teams like Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Wake Forest. I like Nebraska a lot. They had some tough losses. Lost to Penn State after upsetting a few teams that were ranked in Big Ten play. And then they lost to Michigan, but they're still in the fight for that last four in spot. And I think Nebraska could do something. They made the tournament last year, lost first round. They've never won an NCAA tournament game. So that would be big if Nebraska can make it and win their first NCAA tournament game. But yeah, overall, the last four in, I like that a lot. But not going to spend too much time on the bubble there. We're going to get into the tournament and talk about our one seeds really quick. Your one seeds, obviously, Auburn is the top overall seed. And then you got Duke, and then you have Alabama and Florida. Obviously, Florida just lost, so I think Florida will slip out of that one seed, and Houston might take over, actually, as one of the other one seeds. So that would be big. Excuse me again. That'd be big to have another one seed besides an SEC school, because you have three currently, and then Duke. But obviously the way this is set up, Duke would get the East, Auburn would get the South. I actually, funny story, actually 2 days ago bought my Sweet 16 and Elite Eight tickets, hoping Auburn wins. If Auburn does not make it that far, then I'm gonna be watching like Florida versus some random school. So, but I did buy my Sweet 16 tickets and Elite Eight tickets to the South region in Atlanta. But yes, Auburn has the South region, and I mean their region pretty easy. I mean, if you look at your 8 seed, you got Creighton. Your 9 is Gonzaga. Your 5 is Oregon. Your 4 is Arizona. You do have Drake in there at the 12 seed. That's a very solid Drake team. This Drake team's had some pretty good teams, but I think this is one of the better teams they've had in recent history. And then Kansas has slipped all the way back to a 6 seed. I think they could go further than that if they keep losing. But Kansas, yeah, is your 6 seed, and then Ohio State's your 11. Kentucky is your 3. That's one thing I'm going to talk about here in a second. And then Memphis is your 7, Vandy's your 10, and Michigan State is your 2. The two teams that I like in this region that could compete with the Auburn Tigers is Michigan State and Kentucky. Obviously, Auburn and Kentucky haven't played yet. They will play this weekend in Rupp Arena in Lexington. But I do like Kentucky and Michigan State because, I mean, Michigan State, we've seen all season, they've been able to compete with these top-ranked teams, and they're number 8 in the country for a reason. I mean, they've just been very good. And then Kentucky, they've been helter-skelter, but they've beaten some good teams. They've beaten Duke. I believe they've beaten a few other good teams as well. So definitely something to look out for with Kentucky and Michigan State. If that ends up unfolding the way it's going to unfold, we'll see. But I like Kentucky and Michigan State in that South region currently. And then, your East region, you got Duke as the 1. Your 8 is New Mexico. Your 9's UConn. Your 5's Missouri. The 12 is McNeese. That's very, keep that name in mind when March comes around, McNeese, if they win their conference. And then Michigan, and then you got St. Mary's, Texas Tech, Louisville, West Virginia, and Tennessee. Duke's got a pretty tough region. I mean, Tennessee did beat them, I believe, 2 years ago. And then, obviously, Texas Tech, they're a very solid team. Haven't lost at home in 2 years. And then McNeese, they've been the storyline the past few weeks with their school. I mean, they've just been going on an insane run. And then Missouri just beat Bama last week in Columbia, Missouri, and that was a big win for the Tigers. And then Michigan's just been on an incredible run. And then also you got UConn, who's kind of been helter-skelter, but can beat anybody in the country. So honestly, that East region looks very solid with some of those teams. You got like Tennessee, Texas Tech, Michigan, Missouri, McNeese, and UConn, and then obviously Duke as your 1 seed. So I like that region a lot. And then we move on to the West region. You have Florida, and then you got BYU as your 8, Utah State as your 9, Clemson's your 5 in that one, and then you also have Purdue, UCLA, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Iowa State. That region's very hard if you're Florida. Um, and Iowa State's been a great team all season. And then along with teams like Clemson and Purdue, they've just been great as well. So Florida's got a pretty tough way to get to San Francisco for the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight, because there's going to be some pretty tough teams they got to play um, to get there. I mean, that's going to be very interesting to see what the Gators can do. If they are the 1 seed, I think maybe they'll change it around. Maybe Iowa State or Houston could be the 1 seed of the West, but we'll keep looking the next few weeks, because obviously March is super close. I mean, we're getting there. We're almost there. And then the Midwest region, your number 1 seed, the last number 1 seed is Alabama. And then you got Illinois, Baylor, Maryland, and then Yale. That's another name to keep in mind as a 12 seed. And then St. John's is your 4, Marquette's your 6, Wisconsin your 3, and Houston's your 2. Bama's got pretty tough region as well. I mean, if we're looking at regions, I mean, it looks like all the 12 seeds except maybe UC San Diego are good. All the 12 seeds are good. I mean, it's always a 12 versus 5 matchup that we kind of look at every year, and you're like, never know. When you're filling out your bracket, I mean, that's what I look at when I fill out my bracket. I'm like, oh, these 12 versus 5 matchups, I mean, they're sneaky. And if you don't, I usually tend to go for a little bit more 12-5 matchups. I like to see those upsets. And if you do your research on those teams, I mean, you're gonna know that something could happen. And usually a 12 versus 5, it happens every year that a 12 versus 5 ends up winning. And I mean, this year I could see a 15 beating a 2. I don't know what 15's going to, but the past 3 years or 4 years, it's happened that a 15's beating a 2, and they're just like, you never hear of them until like they beat that 2 seed, and then you're like, oh, they're that good. Like, I mean, who was it last year? Oh wait, no, that was my mistake. Yeah, last year there was not a 15 that beat a 2. It was a 14 that beat a 3 last year. Oakland beat Kentucky in the first round, so that was the storyline. Obviously, Oakland, Jack Golke led his team, and they beat Kentucky. But yeah, I mean, it's insane. I mean, I think honestly, you could have some. There'll be a lot of upsets this year in March. There always is, but I think this year is going to be one of those years that there'll be a ton of upsets. I don't see a 16 beating a 1 this year, but I do see maybe a 15 beating a 2 for sure. But I mean, looking at the brackets, I mean, it looks solid. And obviously comment down below if I missed any teams that you guys wanted to hear about or anything. But yeah, I mean, this bracketology looks very, very good. And I think can't wait to see the new one that comes out. And obviously, I mean, I don't like the bracketologies because I want to get there. I want to get to March. I mean, we're so close. I mean, we got one more week basically of college basketball regular season, and then we get to conference play. March 9th starts conference play. You got the I think it's the Coastal Athletic Association Conference Tournament starts. The first round is March 9th. And then, like, I'm telling you, the next 2 weeks, like, after regular season's over, I'm going to be sitting on my couch and just watching watching conference tournaments. I mean, that's literally the best part of March, is just watching conference tournaments, and it's amazing. I mean, obviously, I can't wait for the tournament, and I hope Auburn wins it. That's the goal. I mean, I'm hoping I can see them at least play in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, so that'd be very good. But yeah, this bracketology looks great. Yeah, we'll see later down the road. Obviously, we're going to talk about some games coming up though right now this weekend, and we're also going to highlight some games that happened this week. So yeah, just going in. Let's see here. Yeah, actually last night, number 2 Duke went to Miami and won 97-60. Isaiah Evans had five first half 3-pointers. Just a great game for Isaiah Evans. He was injured first half of the season, but it's come on strong as of late. But Miami's not a very good team, obviously, but Duke almost scored 100 points on him, and that's a very good Duke team there, who could potentially be number 1 if Auburn ever falls. And yeah, Duke gets a huge win last night. And obviously not going to spend too much time on it because it wasn't a big game, but yeah, Blue Devils 97, Hurricanes 60. So yeah, that's big for Duke going in the tournament. So can't wait to see what they do the remainder of the season and then get into conference championship play. But yeah, then going on to the next game that we saw last night, Florida got upset by Georgia. Georgia was in a huge lead in that game, and then they kind of gave it up. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, uh, Georgia just pulled away and was able to get Florida a huge upset on Florida. So that was great to see, honestly, because now that puts Florida's out, or they're almost out of contention to to win the SEC regular season. So yeah, I mean now if you look at it, 88-83, Georgia wins at home, and that was a great game by the Bulldogs. I mean, just were able to pull that. That honestly helped their tournament chances too, because they were able to pull off a huge upset, and they're now 17-11. So they got to win those last, or either one of those last three games that I mentioned earlier, and they could put themselves in the tournament, which would be great for Georgia basketball. And then another great game last night, or well, not a great game, but another game that kind of stood out. Alabama blew out Mississippi State. I mean, 111-73. Geez, I mean, this Alabama team been struggling as of late. Lost to Auburn, Missouri. Did beat Kentucky over the weekend, but Alabama finally got a big win against Mississippi State and was able to kind of put a statement on there and say, yeah, we're not bad. We're just in a little bit of a slump, and they showed that right there, and the Crimson Tide roll over the Bulldogs and get a huge win. So Mississippi State's obviously out of the rankings now, and they're kind of skidding away, but they'll still make the tournament. But they need to win some games if they want to get a higher seed in that March Madness tournament. So, but Bama gets a huge win, 111-73, big win for the Crimson Tide at home. And then the other upset of the night last night was actually you had Iowa State upset Oklahoma. Or no, what am I talking about? I'm like so tired right now. You had Oklahoma State upset Iowa State last night, 74-68. Huge win for Oklahoma State. Obviously, they're not going to make the tournament, but Iowa State could have been a 2 seed. Or well, they are a 2 seed actually, but yeah, that's going to hurt right there. Tough loss at Oklahoma State, and yeah, this does not help Iowa State's case. I mean, but if you look at it, Iowa State's lost to some teams this year. But I like their chances to still possibly get that 2 seed, but we'll see. I mean, we had two upsets last night that kind of affected number 3 and then number 9. So we'll see later down the road what happens. But yeah, Iowa State gets upset on the road, and that's going to happen. But Iowa State's going to have to find a way to bounce back and possibly get a 2 seed if they can win the rest of their games and get into conference tournament play and possibly win the Big 12. But other than that, no other game really stood out to me last night. But tonight, currently on TV right now, you have Auburn and Ole Miss at halftime. Auburn is leading 50-40. It was a blowout earlier, but Ole Miss kind of made their way back, and they're currently losing by 10. But the Tigers got off to a hot start with making every shot they took, basically, from I don't even know what I'm saying. Basically, they made every shot, and then yeah, Ole Miss kind of went on a little bit of run there towards the end of the half, but the Tigers, we'll see what they do coming out of half. And obviously, if Auburn wins this, it'll be 26-2, and then they will play Kentucky on Saturday, so that's going to be a big game as well. But the number 1 Tigers currently lead the Rebels 50-40 at halftime. And then going on to Big Ten play, Michigan State currently leading Maryland 37-33. 11 minutes in the second half. It's winding down, and Michigan State's only up 4. So we'll see what the Spartans have in them try to win this game. And if Michigan State wins this game, they could possibly. I mean, if they keep winning, who knows? Maybe they sneak in as a 1 seed. I don't know, but it would really be interesting to see what Michigan State does later down the road with their team, because I really like that Michigan State team out of the Big Ten for sure. But going on to another game currently, this is an upset alert. Vanderbilt is currently leading Texas A&M at halftime, 34-32. And yeah, watch out for that. Texas A&M's lost 2 straight. Could lose 3 straight if they lose to the Commodores here. Vanderbilt's not a team to mess around with. They've been pretty good this year, 18-9, 6-8 in SEC play. So yeah, if Vanderbilt gets a win here, that could lock them in that could lock them in March Madness, and that'd be great for the Commodores, considering they've been kind of terrible at basketball the last few years. So yeah, currently Vanderbilt up 34-32 on A&M at halftime. So yeah, that's the scoring update right now, and obviously college basketball. Just we're getting to the end of the season. It's kind of sad to say because first is college football, now it's college basketball. We're getting into the season, and really don't want it to leave, but you know it's gonna have to soon, and we're gonna miss it. But I definitely am excited for March Madness, and I'm excited to go to the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight for sure. But going away from men's college basketball, we are going to get into some baseball, some MLB baseball. Spring training has currently started in down there in Florida and also out there in Arizona. Obviously, some highlights from spring training. We've gotten some great news out of spring training. Jurickson Profar from the Atlanta Braves actually is the first thing I want to talk about. He made his debut today, actually. Looked pretty solid. Hit a double right off the first pitch he saw. And actually had a pretty decent game. Matt Olson drove him in by hitting a home run. Yeah, this Braves team, one of the teams that could potentially compete for a World Series. You also got the Dodgers, Yankees, Padres, Phillies, Mets. Those are some other teams that could compete for the World Series. But yeah, I mean, so far in spring training, it's been great. No major injuries yet. Good to hear. But all the teams look great. Obviously it's spring training, so once we get in the regular season, we'll see who's bad, who's good. But yeah, baseball, MLB baseball, right around the corner. Actually, very excited for that because I love me some MLB baseball. The Braves, my favorite team. So yeah, great to hear that Jurickson Profar had a great day today. And obviously, not much to talk about with spring training because it's just kind of prospects playing, so you don't really get the full gist of everybody playing. But you will once the regular season gets closer, and it's I believe March 28th is opening day, so that should be fun for the Braves opening day. I can't wait to see them play the Padres. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens the rest of spring training with the Braves and some of these other teams. Like, I mean, I saw the other day that the Angels, Jorge Soler hit a ball out of the stadium, and then I saw on Instagram actually today some Rockies guy Jeffrey Yan hit, or he what is it? He did the splits and then like did a weird motion or something after he struck out somebody. So yeah, it's already been fun for some of these minor league guys to get up there and get their opportunity. But yeah, can't wait to see what happens the rest of spring training, like I said, and just get ready for the regular season. I mean, I'm excited for some MLB baseball. But kind of staying on the topic of baseball, obviously didn't have much to talk about with MLB because it's just spring training. But we're going to talk about some Division I baseball, some college baseball. Go over the rankings really quick. You got A&M at 1, LSU at 2, Tennessee at 3, Arkansas at 4, North Carolina at 5, Georgia at 6, Florida State at 7, Florida at 8, Oregon State at 9, Virginia at 10, Oregon at 11, Wake Forest at 12, Clemson at 13, Vanderbilt at 14, Texas at 15. Then you got Oklahoma at 16, Duke at 17, Mississippi State at 18, Dallas Baptist at 19, UC Santa Barbara at 20. Then you got Troy at 21, Southern Miss at 22, Cincinnati at 23, Ole Miss at 24, and TCU at 25. And obviously, we talked a little bit about college baseball last week with Zach on the episode, but I kind of want to take a deeper dive with college baseball. Kind of been very interesting this year. Some games that we can highlight for college baseball. Actually, top 25 from tonight. The final scores: Georgia beats Georgia State 7-3 in Atlanta, and then Duke actually got upset again. Two upsets against the Blue Devils. They lost to Campbell last night, and then they lost to Liberty today, 12-4 in Durham. And then North Carolina beats North Carolina A&T 13-4. Currently in the top of the ninth, Oklahoma leads Texas Southern 15, or they lead them 5-3. And then Troy currently leads UAB 7-3. And then Florida State currently leads Jacksonville 7-3 as well. And then Florida is currently beating North Florida 3-0. LSU and Dallas Baptist will square off at 8 o'clock in Arlington, Texas. So that should be fun. But yeah, I mean, college baseball this season's just been amazing. And I'm really excited actually to watch some college baseball because it's been just amazing. Like I said, I've watched some Auburn baseball on TV. They've been great, 7-1 on the season. Surprised they're not ranked actually. But this is D1 baseball rankings, so we'll see. But this, I mean, I'm excited for what the season brings. Conference play starts soon. I believe Auburn's first opening series is against Vanderbilt, so that's very exciting. And yeah, I mean, it's just a great opportunity to if you live in a college town and have a chance to watch your college baseball team play, just go ahead and watch them. I mean, college baseball is a fun sport. You get metal bats and everything. There's been some great home runs so far hit at Plainsman Park over here in Auburn, and yeah, I love the atmosphere already. Actually, Auburn played Samford last night, won 15-8. So yeah, big win for the Auburn Tigers. But I also want to highlight some other games, some other ranked games we got this week. Tomorrow you got Cincinnati playing UC San Diego, and then Friday, let's see here. Friday, I believe you have some series going on. You got let's see, any ranked versus ranked series do we have? We do have a decent series between Miami and Florida, number 8 versus Miami. And yeah, that should be a pretty solid series there, considering Miami is pretty decent. And then you got a rivalry between South Carolina and Clemson. That should be fun. And then you got number 22 Southern Miss and number 25 TCU. So that should be very fun as well. And then Vanderbilt playing UCLA at UCLA. I mean, you got some great series this weekend between teams, and should be a fun weekend for February 28th through March 2nd. And then obviously you have a few tournaments going on actually. I believe Oregon State. Yeah, Oregon State plays Auburn at 7 p.m. in Arlington, Texas, in Global Life Field. So that should be fun to watch. That's some sort of tournament. I don't know exactly what it's called, but yeah, gonna be a fun weekend for some college baseball. And yeah, if you haven't had a chance to watch any college baseball, you gotta watch it. I mean, just a great sport to watch. Like I said, metal bats and everything. So yeah, I mean, just the sport of baseball in general, I love it. I mean, love college and pro baseball. But that is gonna do it. Didn't really talk about a lot. Just kind of been tired this week, overrun with a lot of things to do. But that is gonna do it for episode 11 of the Halftime Sports Talk Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe on our videos, and also tell your friends about us. I mean, last video got 174 views. We're hoping to break that, or I'm hoping to break that over the mark. Possibly get a lot more views. We need more subscribers. We got to get it out there. Got to get the message out there that Halftime Sports is on the rise, and it is for sure. But don't forget to repost us on Instagram or TikTok or X if you have that. If you ever watch a video or anything and think it's great, just don't forget to tag us. If you guys aren't following us on those accounts,